What's up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. These are my full card breakdown and predictions for UFC Fight Island 7, Max Holloway versus Calvin Kattar. And it feels like it's been forever since I've done one of these breakdown and prediction videos, and it's been a couple weeks, and I think it's been a couple weeks too long. I don't know about you guys, but having no fights on Saturday nights, it's just not the same. So luckily getting back into it here, starting out 2021 with a very good card and a very good main event in Max Holloway versus Calvin Kattar. A few things before we get into the video. As always, if you can like the video, it helps out a ton. One small like goes a long way. Really helps with the algorithm there. And then also subscribe if you have not yet. Again, helps a lot. Trying to reach that 10,000 subscriber goal, hopefully in the near future here. And now's a great time to sign up on the Patreon. As I always say, my breakdowns will always be free. My betting breakdowns, my live stream on Friday will always be free. My bets will always be posted on Saturdays. But if you do want to support me more, if you do want more content or early access to bets, sign up on the Patreon. The most popular option is going to be the $10 betting option, $10 a month, which is like $2.50 per card. You get my early bets. I post them as soon as I bet them. My betting breakdown videos, which are out now. My live stream, this is new. It's going to be a live stream for Patreons only on Saturday on fight days. And then, of course, my model with all the stats for all the fighters, my betting article, just tons of content on there, $10. Really helps me out and helps you guys out as well. And I do have 4 bets posted already for Fight Island 7, and I'm about to start uploading some bets for UFC Fight Island 8. I'm getting into that right now, and I see a lot of spots I'd like, so I'm going to start pulling the trigger on some of those and getting those out early as well. So check that out. The link will be in the description, and I did add a 10% off option if you do want to do the yearly package there, which is a pretty good deal. So with that said, we're going to get into it here. As always, look out for the betting breakdown on Saturday, going over all my bets. You can follow me on Twitter, DFS_numbers, Instagram, DFS by the numbers. I'll post all my bets there on Saturday on fight day. And then, of course, the live stream on Friday, as always, will be 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. So, we lost a fight already, and crossing my fingers that we do not lose anymore. We lost the Mike Grundy fight versus Nick Lentz. We lost that fight. We are now down to 12 fights, which is still a good amount if we can keep all the fights on the card by fight time, which hoping we do, but I don't know. But now we have, and this order could be completely out of order here. I'm going off of Tapology, and it doesn't look like it's set in stone here. So if it does go a little bit out of order as the week goes on, can't really do anything about it. I do want to get this video out early. So the first fight of the night as of now, we have Yanan Wu versus Jocelyn Edwards. And Wu is going to be 24 years old, very young here, 5'8", 66-inch reach, 11-3 and 2-3 in her last 5 fights. Jocelyn Edwards is going to be 25 years old, 5'6", 9-2 and 4-1 in her last 5 fights. Getting into the odds here, we have Wu Yanan at -165 and Jocelyn Edwards at +145. Yanan opened up at -165. So the line's kind of staying right around where it opened. And yeah, this is kind of a tough fight to call because, two lower level fighters. Yanan Wu, what I looked for in the tape was, does she go for takedowns? Because I have seen Jocelyn Edwards taken down and controlled a decent amount in her career, but Wu Yanan, as of now in the UFC, she has 1 takedown. It really wasn't a takedown, but I think this fight's going to primarily play out on the feet, and I feel like it's going to be really, really close. I feel like it's probably going to go to some type of split decision. And watching tape on Edwards, Edwards has some pretty good striking. Of course, we got to factor in it's against lower level opponents, but she does hit very hard. Decent finishing rates actually for both fighters. So Wu has finished 82% of her wins, and Jocelyn Edwards has finished 89% of her wins. So I would not be shocked if, I know it's women's MMA, but I wouldn't be shocked if there was a finish on either side here. But in a very close fight, in a fight where I feel like it's going to be striking the majority of the time, I'm going to take a shot on the dog here in Jocelyn Edwards. I really like what I see from her on the feet. Of course, low level competition, but she does have some serious power, and I'm going to take Edwards to win a very close split decision there. Not too confident in it. Don't know if I want to bet it. UFC newcomer here, but I'm going to take the underdog there with Jocelyn Edwards. Really like this fight here. We have Phil Hawes versus Nasruddin Imavov, and Hawes is 31 years old, 6 foot, 77.5-inch reach. He is 9-2 and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Nasruddin Imavov, he is 24 years old, 6'3", going to have a 3-inch height advantage, 75.5-inch reach, going to be at about 1.5 inches or 2 inches reach disadvantage. He is 9-2 as well and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. So both guys have been on a roll as of late. Hey, we'll take a look at the odds here. We have Nasruddin Imavov as an underdog at +135 and Phil Hawes at -155. Hawes actually opened up -185. So the line is coming down a little bit, and rightfully so. So what it comes down to for me is Phil Hawes is a finisher. He is a finisher. He has never lost by decision, and he's never won by decision. He's never won to decision. I mean, he's finished 100% of his wins, 78% by knockout, 22% by submission for a 100% finish rate. And Nasruddin Imavov has never been knocked out. He has been submitted once. I believe that was very early in his career. I want to say it was like his first fight, actually. And what it comes down to me is Hawes really slows down after that first round. I don't want to say Hawes is first round or bust, but I do want to say that if Hawes is not able to get the finish on Imavov in the first round, I do think Imavov can definitely take over. For that reason, I kind of favor Imavov here, and seeing him at an underdog is really interesting. I actually think this should be closer to a pick'em because, yes, Hawes is a huge threat in the first round. He really is, but Imavov has shown a good chin. He did get rocked in his last fight against Jordan Williams. It was a headbutt clash, but still was able to recover really well, go to his wrestling there. And Hawes, it just slows down a ton. I mean, he puts 110% into every single shot. He's a really good wrestler, but I don't know if he has the cardio to really implement a wrestling-heavy game plan for 3 rounds. No way he does. Maybe the first round, so Hawes probably wins the first round. I think Imavov is going to survive. He's never been knocked out. I think Imavov is going to take over and get a second round finish here. I really like what I see from Imavov. I really do. I really think he's a good fighter. They call him the Russian sniper for a reason. He's very accurate, very good, and I like him a lot. So I'm going to go with the guy with the better cardio here to get a second round knockout against Phil Hawes, taking my second underdog of the card there. All right, getting into the next fight here. Very interesting fight, actually. We have Ramazan Emeev versus David Zawada. And Emeev is 33 years old, 5'10", 68.5-inch reach, which is going to be at a pretty big reach disadvantage, about 6.5 reach disadvantage, which is interesting there. He has 19-4 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. David Zawada is 30 years old, 6 foot, 75-inch reach, 17-5 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. So taking a look at the odds here. Emeev, if I can find it, Emeev's a pretty sizable favorite. Emeev is minus 255, opened up minus 265, and Zawada is plus 215, opened up plus 205 there. So, yeah, I think the line, I want to say it's accurate. I think it could be a little bit closer than that. The thing about Emeev is the dude's extremely dangerous. I mean, we saw him get a submission win off his back against a Nurmagomedov, not a great Nurmagomedov, but a Nurmagomedov nonetheless. And Emeev, I'm not in love with the guy. I mean, he averages only 2.29 significant strikes per minute with a 43% accuracy, so very low volume. Zawada a little bit more volume, averaging about 3.38 with the 41% accuracy. Emeev does go for a decent amount of takedowns, landing 2 per 15 minutes with a 25% accuracy. And Zawada does have a 60% takedown defense. I do think Emeev's going to get takedowns. I do think he's going to get them easy, but Zawada is very, very dangerous off the back. And Zawada's a finisher. Zawada's finished 89% of his wins, 65% by knockout, 24% by submission. And we have seen Emeev knocked out before, and we have seen Emeev submitted before. But in all honesty, Emeev probably wins a grinding decision here. I do think he has the better gas tank, obviously the better wrestling. He's going to get some top control, but he really needs to stay safe on top because Zawada is going to be searching for submissions nonstop. And I really do like that about Zawada. Definitely going to leave Emeev out of the parlays this week. Actually, not going to have a parlay this week. I mean, I don't think there really is a safe parlay to say the least here. I think Ponzinibio is a good parlay piece, I guess. Buckley's fine, but I'm personally not going to have any parlays this week. Emeev's definitely somebody I wouldn't put in the parlays because Zawada's a very dangerous fighter, whether it is on the feet or whether it is on the mat. And if it does stay on the feet for long periods of time, Zawada's going to be throwing more volume, but I do think that Emeev's going to take him down, grind him out a decision, but just not something I'd bet on personally. So I'm going to take Ramazan Emeev to win by decision. Probably a boring decision if he does win as well. All right, this fight should be really good here. Dusko Todorovich versus Soriano. And Dusko is 26 years old, 6'1", 74-inch reach, 10-0. Obviously 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Soriano is 28 years old, 5'11", 74-inch reach, 7-0. And yeah, I've been going back and forth on this fight. This fight is a really tough fight to call. I do think that Dusko's getting a little bit overrated. I mean, he went out there and knocked out Michel Pereira a couple years ago. I think it was like in 2018. Very good win. And then he went out there and dominated Daquan Townsend, someone who is 0-4 in the UFC. Someone who's obviously not that great, but, you know, solid wins, but still I'm not all that impressed as of late. I think he's getting a little bit overrated here. He has a pretty sizable favorite here at minus 160, and Soriano is plus 140. And like I said, I've been flip-flopping back and forth. What it comes down to me is I do think that Dusko is going to have better cardio. I think that Dusko is going to have better volume. He throws a crazy amount of volume. What I don't like about Dusko is his striking defense. I mean, he backs up, he leaves his chin up in the air, and one thing about Soriano is he can absolutely hit very hard. He has very good wrestling, but I'm going to slightly edge Dusko just because of the cardio advantage. I think that he's going to take Soriano into deeper waters, and both guys are undefeated here. Both guys have never tasted defeat, so it's going to be really interesting to see this fight play out. I'm going to take Dusko to win. I'm going to take Dusko to win a volume-based decision. I don't see either guy getting finished here. If there is a finish, I'm going to say Soriano knocks him out, but I don't think that's all that likely. Both guys have shown really good chins, but yeah, kind of some question marks with Dusko with his striking defense. I do think he needs to shore some things up, but I'm going to take him to win by a decision here just by throwing more volume, having the better cardio, and just taking Soriano into deeper waters here, but just wouldn't bet on it. I think it's going to play out semi-close here. All right, getting into the next fight, and this fight is going to be an absolute banger. I think this fight possibly could be fight of the night, honestly. And we have Jacob Kilburn versus Austin Lingo. I mean, look at their nicknames. Jacob Kilburn, the Killer. Austin Lingo, lights out. How is this fight not going to be exciting? And Austin Lingo, he is going to be 26 years old, 5'10", 70-inch reach, 7-1 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. And Jacob Kilburn is going to be 25 years old, 5'9", 72-inch reach, 8-3 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. So something in common between these two fighters is they both had their UFC debut, both have one fight in the UFC, and both guys did not make a good account for themselves. I mean, Jacob Kilburn went in there against Billy Quarantillo, got dominated from start up until he got submitted, and he looked bad. I mean, Billy looked fantastic, and it's not often we see Billy, going out there with a dominant start to fights. He's usually somebody that gets better as the fight goes on, but he dominated Kilburn from start to up until he got the finish there. And Austin Lingo went into his fight with Yusuf Zalal, and he was actually a sizable favorite in that. I think it was like minus 210 in that favorite against Yusuf Zalal. That, looking back at it, kind of crazy there, and I was on Zalal in that fight, but did not expect it to go like that. I mean, Lingo had a lot of trouble with the range of Zalal, the movement of Zalal, and Zalal was able to, run away a lot like that, and he was able to take down Lingo like 5 or 6 times as well. So that's not going to happen here. Kilburn is going to stand and bang with Lingo, and I think they're going to stand and bang until one man falls. This fight should be very exciting up until it lasts, and Lingo's minus 225. I don't really get that. I do think he's the better fighter, the more skilled fighter, but like I said, these guys are going to stand and bang until one man falls. If it does hit the mat, you got to favor Lingo. Lingo does have some submissions on his record, but Kilburn's looked awful on the mat. Kilburn's been finished in all 3 of his losses, all 3 by submission. Both the guys have never been knocked out. I actually see that changing here. I think somebody's going to get finished. I'm going to slightly take Lingo. Don't love the minus 225, but I do think he's going to knock out Kilburn here. But yeah, it's going to be a really dangerous fight for both guys. And both guys are going to give the other guy the fight they want as well. So it should be really entertaining up until the fight finishes there. But I'm going to take Austin Lingo to win by, I'm going to say first round knockout there for Austin Lingo. Oh boy. Oh no. Sarah Moras versus Vanessa Mello. Not in love with this fight. I mean, just taking a look at their records. I mean, 6-6 for Sarah Moras. Vanessa Mello, 10-8, 0-3 in the UFC. Should be okay, I guess. Sarah Moras is 32 years old. She's 5'7", going to have a 2-inch height advantage, 67-inch reach, going to have a 2-inch reach advantage, and she has 1-4 in her last 5 fights. Vanessa Mello, 32 years old, 5'5", 65-inch reach, and 2-3 in her last 5 fights, losing 3 in a row, I believe. So, take a look at the odds here. The odds are actually shocking. Sarah Moras is minus 240, open up minus 260. Some money coming in on Mello. Mello is plus 200. And I don't get that. I mean, I feel like this fight's going to play out really close. Moras is obviously going to need to get takedowns in this fight to have some success. And watching tape on Mello, she's actually fought some really good competition. Carol Rosa, Irene Aldana, Tracy Cortez. And in that Cortez fight, we all know how great of a wrestler Cortez is. Cortez was actually having some trouble at times taking down Mello. Mello's takedown defense looks actually pretty solid. And Sarah Moras, her wrestling's really bad. So I actually feel like Mello can keep this on the feet for a decent amount of time. Of course, if Moras is able to get Mello down, she's going to be in a lot of trouble, just with top control and all. I don't see either fighter getting a finish here, but I think if Mello can stuff the takedown, she's going to have an advantage on the feet. Not like a crazy advantage, but she will have an advantage nonetheless. So Moras does land 2.18 significant strikes per minute with a 38% accuracy, and Mello so far within 3 fights lands about 3.4. So landing a little bit more there. Mello does have, let's take a look at her takedown defense, it's 69% takedown defense, and we do got to factor in the level of competition because Tracy Cortez, Irene Aldana, Carol Rosa, not bad opponents, honestly. So I'm actually going to take the underdog here. I feel like this fight's going to play out close. I feel like Mello can stuff a lot of the takedowns from Moras, and when it is on the feet, it's going to be very close, but I do give a slight edge to Mello in the stand-up. Not like a crazy edge or nothing, but man, Moras has looked awful. Her one win in her last 5 fights was against Luana Jojua, which, I mean, not that impressive in my opinion. So I'm going to take Mello, take the underdog, in what should be a very close fight. Don't see a finish other side. So give me Mello by a close, split, ugly, barely, I don't know. Give me Mello by split decision here. Not looking forward to that fight, though. All right, yeah, another fight I feel like could be semi-boring, but, I mean, Carlos Felipe's last fight against Jorgen de Castro was probably the worst co-main event in memory that I have ever had. The co-main event was Carlos Felipe versus Jorgen de Castro. It was a bunch of just holding each other up against the cage. It was awful, went to decision. Felipe was an underdog in that fight as well. And Carlos Felipe, he's 25 years old, 6 foot, 75-inch reach, 9-1 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Justin Tafa, 27 years old, 6 foot, 74-inch reach, 4-1, and obviously 4-1 in his last 5 fights. So, yeah, not much experience on the Tafa side. The experience edge is going to go to Felipe, and him being the younger fighter there, going to have a 1-inch reach advantage for Felipe as well. And Carlos Felipe is a sizable favorite here at -190. Actually opened up -240, so surprisingly enough, a lot of money coming in on Tafa, it looks like, compared to the openers there. So Tafa at +165 here. And pre-tape, I mean, I thought I was going to take a shot on Tafa. I'm not a huge fan of Felipe. Don't love the guy all that much. But after getting into it, I do think that Felipe does do some good things. Well, I mean, he throws a lot of volume for the heavyweight division. He's going to be throwing more volume than Tafa. The problem is Tafa hits like an absolute truck. I think if there's a finish on either side, it's going to be on the Tafa side. But Felipe has shown a really, really good chin. He is hittable, though. He is hittable, and that you can, be fine with being hittable if you're facing guys like Sergey Spivak. Jorgen de Castro has power, but he did take the shots well. I don't know if you want to be hittable against a guy like Justin Tafa, who has some really, really good power, but I'm going to take Carlos Felipe to win a decision here just by throwing more, being more active. He actually has some solid cardio for the heavyweight division. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of, holding each other up against the cage. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of that, but if anything, I like the over 1.5 because of the durability of Felipe. Never been knocked out. Has shown a really good chin, and because of the lack of finishing ability for Felipe. And he does have some finishes on his record, but he doesn't really have that one-punch knockout power. We've seen him go to decision both times in the UFC so far, and I've watched all of Felipe's fights, and I didn't see one time where he, one-punch knocked out somebody. It's either on the ground, where his opponents are, gassed out, and he's just raining down punches, or he did earlier in his career, he punched somebody in the eye, and he kind of gave up and quit there. So I don't really see that one-punch knockout power from Felipe. If there is a finish, it's probably going to be from Tafa. Does it happen? Maybe it could. It's a heavyweight, but I'm more so leaning towards Carlos Felipe getting a decision here. So give me Carlos Felipe to get it done. And yeah, it could be a boring fight. It really could. All right, next we have Carlos Condit versus Matt Brown. Condit is 36 years old, 6'2", a 76-inch reach, 31-13 and 1-4 in his last 5 fights. I believe he lost 5 in a row before the Court McGee win there. Matt Brown is 39 years old, 6 foot, 76-inch reach, 22-17, and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Matt Brown, at 39 years old, I think he's about to be 40 as well, so something to think about there. Could be his last fight. I thought, a couple years ago he was supposed to be retired. I think in 2018 he was talking about retirement. Still fighting in 2021, so very interesting there. We'll take a look at the odds. Carlos Condit is going to be a -160 favorite as Condit. Matt Brown is going to be +140. Condit opened up at -170 there. What's interesting to note about both these guys is their crazy ability to finish. I mean, Carlos Condit has a 90% finish rate, 48% by knockout, 42% by submission, and Matt Brown has a 92% finish rate. So average that out. It's like a 91% finish rate there between the two on average, and Matt Brown, a 67% knockout rate, 25% submission rate. And the thing about Condit is in 44 fights, he's never been knocked out. I mean, he had a TKO loss due to injury against, I believe, Tyron Woodley. But other than that, he's never been knocked out. So very good durability from Condit. I do think that's going to pay dividends in this fight against Matt Brown, where it's the complete opposite. I mean, Matt Brown's durability is not where it once was. Brown has lost 3 times by knockout. We saw him get knocked out his last fight against Miguel Baeza. We know Matt Brown is very weak to the body as well. And Matt Brown's been submitted 10 times. So how you beat Carlos Condit, and somebody needs to tell Court McGee this, How you beat Carlos Condit at this point, you take him down. And Court McKee, it was so frustrating that fight because Court McKee, throughout his career, had a ton of takedowns. He didn't go for one, I don't think. Maybe he went for one against Carlos Condit, but he didn't get any. And Carlos Condit has a 36% takedown defense. Matt Brown averages about 1.6 takedowns per 50 minutes. I think if Brown wants to, he can definitely take down Condit, but at that point he's playing with fire because Matt Brown has been submitted a crazy 10 times. So I really do think there's more paths to victory for Condit. I think both these guys are more than on their way out of their careers, but I do think Condit looked pretty good against Court McKee, was able to knock him down. I'm going to say Condit finishes Brown here. I'm going to say he finishes him. I don't think Brown's durability is, like I said, once where it was, and I think he's going to knock him out, maybe hurt him in the body, finish him. And I'm going to take Carlos Condit to win inside the distance. I'm going to say second round knockout for Condit there. Actually looking forward to this fight. Two guys that have been in the game for a long time, almost a combined nearly 90 fights, combined for those guys. So give me Carlos Condit to win. Really looking forward to that fight. Probably knocks out Brown there, and Brown's probably going to retire. I mean, the dude's about 40 years old. All right. Next we have my man, Joaquin Buckley versus Alessio Di Chirico. Buckley, 26 years old, 5'10", 76-inch reach, 12-3, 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Alessio Di Chirico is 31 years old, 6 foot, 74-inch reach, and 12-5 and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. So yeah, I mean, Buckley is someone who, in his 3 UFC fights, his first one he lost to Kevin Holland. We just saw his last fight; he was able to knock out Jordan Wright. And he's been looking really good. I mean, he knocked out Impa Kasanganay, a very highly viewed prospect by a lot of the MMA community, including me. I thought Impa was solid there. I did think that line was off in their fight. And in that fight, everybody talks about the knockout and all that against Impa, but he was looking really good up until the knockout. I mean, he was winning the fight up until he knocked out Impa in one of the best knockouts we've ever seen. And I'm really impressed with Joaquin Buckley. What I don't get is the line here. I really don't get the line here for Buckley. So Buckley is going to be a minus 270 favorite, which makes absolutely no sense because he closed around, I want to say minus 210 on some books, minus 220 on some books against Jordan Wright. I can tell you guys now this is going to be a lot tougher fight against Di Chirico than it was against Jordan Wright. I almost doubled down on Buckley whenever the line went to minus 210. It was absolutely insane. I couldn't believe the love for Jordan Wright, but people want to fade Buckley. People think maybe that knockout against Impa was a fluke, but I do think Buckley is somewhat the real deal. Is he, worthy of being a minus 275 favorite against Di Chirico? Maybe. I don't see him going out there and knocking out Di Chirico or nothing like that, and I'll tell you why. So Di Chirico, say what you want about him. I think he's a very boring fighter. The dude barely throws any output whatsoever. Lands about 3.25 significant strikes per minute. He actually absorbs a little bit more than he gives out, which is always not a great thing. But he goes to very close fights in a lot of his fights. I mean, against Kevin Holland, went to a very close fight against him. Had a really close fight last fight. He almost won that fight up until he got knocked down in the last second of that fight. And what he does is make fights boring, which I don't know if he's going to be able to do that against Buckley. I do think Buckley's going to be throwing more volume, but Di Chirico's very tough. He's never been knocked out in 17 fights. I mean, he got dropped his last fight, but never been knocked out. And Buckley has never went to a decision in the UFC so far. 75% finish rate for Buckley, 75% by KO. Buckley's been knocked out twice. One of those was against Kevin Holland. One of those was earlier in his career. I don't know. I feel like this fight's going to play out close. I got to pick Buckley here just because he's going to be throwing more output. Just don't know if he's going to knock out Di Chirico. I really don't think he will. I'm going to say Buckley by decision. If there's a finish on either side, honestly, I could see it being maybe Di Chirico. I mean, Di Chirico has some sneaky power, and we have seen Buckley knock down a ton against Kevin Holland and knocked out before as well. So I'd tread very lightly on the minus 270 here. I don't think it's warranted, and honestly, looking back at it, it's crazy to see that he's a bigger favorite against Di Chirico than he was against Jordan Wright, because I do think his fight's going to be way tougher. But, the UFC is probably doing Buckley a favor here. I mean, Di Chirico's loss is, last 3, something like that. So, yeah, probably trying to give Buckley a win here, but I do think it could play out a little bit closer than everybody thinks. A lot of people think he's going to come out here and knock out Di Chirico in the first round. It's probably not going to happen. So, give me Buckley by decision, just by throwing more output, being more active. But, yeah, just tread lightly on that one. All right. And finally, we have the return of Santiago Ponzinibio versus Jingliang Li, the Leech. And Ponzinibio, he is 34 years old, 6 foot, 73-inch reach, 27-3 and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. The Leech is 32 years old, 6 foot, 72-inch reach, 17-6, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. So, taking a look at the odds, and I mean, if this fight was booked like 2 years ago, I think that Ponzinibio would be even a bigger favorite than he is now, but minus 275, it seems a little bit wide because of the question marks coming off of a lot of injuries for Ponzinibio, like a 2-year layoff. There are a decent amount of question marks, but I do think he's the much better fighter here, and I'll kind of explain why, but the Leech is plus 235. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Ponzinibio here. I think he's going to be throwing more output. The Leech has never been knocked out, though. He's never been knocked out, but he has been knocked down a ton. I think he's been knocked down like 5 or 6 times in the UFC, which is a lot. I just think Ponzinibio is going to be the faster fighter. I think he's going to be the more talented, skilled fighter, but those injuries are a really big concern there. What's interesting enough about this fight, or the line at least, they open up the over at 1.5 rounds, which was shocking to me. And they opened up at 1.5, which is kind of weird. You'd think they opened up at 2.5 because both guys are pretty durable. And the Leech has never been knocked out. The Leech has never been knocked out in 23 fights. Like I said, he's been knocked down a lot, but never been knocked out nonetheless. So I think the over is safe, and I think it's probably like juiced up to like minus 200 at this point, but I think it's a good play. Not touching it personally, but something to note there because this probably does go over. But don't be shocked if Ponzinibio does knock down the Leech a couple times. I mean, Ponzinibio has some solid power. Solid finish rate for Ponzinibio, about 74%, 55% by knockout. But he should get it done. I'm going to say by decision. Maybe he knocks him out. Nobody's been able to yet, but maybe he does knock him out. I do think there's a huge gap in skill, but there are question marks with the really long layoff and with all the injuries. And I don't know. I'm going to take Ponzinibio to win by decision here, but probably wouldn't lay the minus 275. A little bit steep for me, but he should get the job done. All right, in co-main event, I don't know if this is the co-main event or not. At least on Tapology, it is right now, so it definitely could change. Weird co-main event to say the least, but it's an interesting fight. Tom Breese versus Amari Akhmedov. Kind of a tough fight to call as well. Tom Breese is going to be 29 years old, 6'3", 73.5-inch reach, going to have a 3-inch height advantage and a half an inch of reach. 12-2 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Amari Akhmedov is 33 years old, 6 foot, 73-inch reach, 25-1 and 3-1 in his last 5 fights. So, yeah, we all know about Tom Breese, his anxiety issues. I mean, he's somebody that has pulled out on fight days before, pulled out on weigh-in days before. As of late, I mean, I think he's been doing a little bit better with that. He went out there and got a win that he absolutely should have won against KB Bueller. A lot of people were on Bueller that fight, and I guess it was kind of a fade on Tom Breese because it really is hard to trust the guy, but I do think he's stirred a little bit of that stuff up. I mean, I don't think he's been having many anxiety issues. At least I don't think. He hasn't been pulling out of fights as of late. He's been fighting more often. It's weird to see Tom Breese fighting like twice in the span of a couple months here, honestly. And so maybe he has cleared a little bit of that stuff up, got a little better with that. And as far as the fight goes, yeah, I mean, I do like Breese here to win the fight. I think he's going to be the much better striker. His striking is very good. I think he's going to have the better cardio. I think he's going to have the more volume. What I am concerned about is the takedowns of Amari Akhmedov, and he has really good wrestling. So Akhmedov lands about 2.5 takedowns per 15 minutes with a 50% takedown accuracy. Breese does have a 75% takedown defense. I do think there's a chance that Breese probably loses the first round, but Breese has a pretty good ground game. I believe Breese is a black belt in BJJ. When he gets taken down, he searches for submissions, looks for reversals, sweeps. He's very active off his back when he is taken down. We don't get to see his ground game all that much, but it does look good to me. So I do think he's going to make Akhmedov work a ton. And yeah, Akhmedov probably does get him down a couple times in the first round, but what's going to separate them is the cardio. Akhmedov slows down a ton. He doesn't really have the cardio to push a wrestling-heavy game plan for 15 minutes. Can he push it for like 5 to 7.5 minutes? Sure he can, but I don't think he has the cardio to push it for 15 minutes against a guy that has a pretty solid ground game and get-up game overall. Pretty good takedown defense. I do think is going to make Akhmedov work a lot. And when it's on the feet, I do think Breese is going to have a massive amount of success. The thing about Breese is a lot of his fights as of late have, he's either been winning those fights or he's been losing those fights to stoppage, and he has a 91% finish rate, 33% by knockout, 58% by submission. So yeah, like I said, a good submission game, and we have seen Akhmedov submitted twice in his career, and we have seen Akhmedov knocked out twice as well. So I would not be shocked if Tom Breese is able to get a finish probably in the 3rd round. So that's probably what I'm going to go to here. Tom Breese to win by third round. I'm going to say knockout. Should be a close fight, though. I really do think it's going to be close up until Breese gets a stoppage in the later rounds. Could Amari Akhmedov win a decision? I think he could. But I don't know. I'm going to take Breese to win by knockout here. I think he's a very skilled fighter. I think he's clearing up a lot of those anxiety issues. It looks like fighting more active. It's really a good sign. So I'm going to take Breese to win by a third round knockout there. Really looking forward to this fight as well as the co-main. I don't know if it's going to be the co-main still. I think there's a couple other fights we can, switch around to make them the co-main. Like Ponzinibio is a good one. Carlos Condit, Matt Brown's a fine co-main event, but this is fine as well, I guess. All right. And now it's time for the main event. And make sure you guys tune into the live stream on Friday at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, going over the weigh-ins, my final thoughts. And of course, the weigh-ins can shift a lot of this around. So that video is probably one of the most important videos of the week because the weigh-ins are a big thing, especially in this pandemic era. We have seen fighters come in very out of shape, stuff like that, not looking good. And it definitely shows in the octagon as well. So make sure you guys check that out. But yeah, getting into this fight. So I did post a video like last week. I wanted to get in some content there. And as most of you guys know, I am on the Holloway side. And I'll kind of explain why. And Holloway is 29 years old, 5'11", 69-inch reach. He's going to be at a 3-inch reach disadvantage. He's 21-6 and 3-3 in his last 5 fights. We'll get into that in a second. Calvin Kattar is 32 years old, 5'11", 72-inch reach, 22-4 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. So taking a look at the odds, and I don't know if I said the odds of the last fight, which was Tom Breese versus Akhmedov, but Tom Breese is minus 150. And Akhmedov is plus 130. But Holloway is minus 155, opened up minus 215. And Kattar is plus 135, opened up at plus 170. I actually kind of agree with the opener a lot more than what it is right now. And yeah, this is a big step up in competition for Calvin Kattar. I mean, going from guys like Jeremy Stevens, guys like Dan Ige, don't get me wrong, I'm a big Dan Ige fan, but going from guys like that to Max Holloway, it's a huge step up in competition. And Max Holloway is somebody that's only lost to the best of the best. Volkanovski, guys like that. He lost to Dustin Poirier as well twice. He lost to Conor McGregor, just to name some of his losses there, like the best of the best guys. And arguably, and I had a bet on Alexander Volkanovski in his last fight, a max bet, a huge play, my biggest play of the year, on Alexander Volkanovski against Max Holloway. I really thought that Max Holloway won. He clearly won the first round, hurting Volkanovski in that first round. He clearly won the second round, hurting Volkanovski in that second round. Third round was close. Third round was really close. He did throw more output and land more than Alexander Volkanovski. I thought you give it to Max there, and then he lost the second 2 round, the fourth and fifth round there. So I did think Holloway edged that out. They gave it to Volkanovski. Not a robber or anything, but it really was a close fight. But you got to look at who he's losing to. I mean, Dustin Poirier lost to him. In that fight, he went up a weight class, which I think is huge to note. And I don't know. I think this is a big step up for Kattar. I think he's been looking really good, but look at who he's been looking good against. Dan Ige, he outlanded him 105 to 85. What would Max Holloway do to Dan Ige? I mean, he would outland him like 200 to 100, something crazy like that. And what I like about Max is he does get better as the fight goes on. He kind of drains his opponents with the amount of volume he throws. And it was weird to see his last fight, because last fight against Volkanovski, he actually went out there and had a really fast start. And I did touch on this in my my video where I broke down just the main event alone last week. Max Holloway, came out and said during that training camp that he was training on Zoom. Hawaii was on a strict lockdown, and it was. And he was really serious about staying safe, keeping his family safe. And a lot of people just kind of ignored that. I do take into account a little bit of that, because he did sound very serious about staying safe, keeping his family safe, staying indoors, training on Zoom. And a lot of people that he trained with said the same thing. I mean, training on Zoom. So I do think he's very hungry. He's lost his last 2. You don't want to lose 3 in a row here. I do think he's very motivated. I think he knows that he probably should have won the last fight. He thought he should have won the fight 2 fights ago against Volkanovski. I personally scored it for Volkanovski here, but this is a must-win fight for Max Holloway. It really is. You do not want to lose 3 in a row here. And don't get me wrong, Calvin Kattar has a lot of upside. 32 years old. He's going to be actually 3 years older than Max Holloway, which is just crazy to think about. But I think this is a big step up. I think that Calvin Kattar is very hittable as well. Listen to this. Calvin Kattar absorbs 5.66 significant strikes per minute. He only lands 5.01, so he is absorbing more than he's giving out, which is a huge red flag, especially against the guys he's been facing. And it's a huge red flag against a guy like Max Holloway, who's going to throw a ton of volume. I think this fight does play out close in a way, but I think the volume of Max Holloway is just going to be a little bit too much. So give me Max Holloway here, and I do like that a lot. I'm hoping that money keeps coming in on Kattar. I see so much love for Calvin Kattar. I get it. I feel like it could play out close, but I do think this is a big step up. And I think Max Holloway is going to get back in the win column here. And he's only 29 years old. A lot of people think he's like 34, 35, stuff like that. And maybe he is in fight years, but I still think he's, in his prime. He looked great. He looked great in his last fight. He really did. He didn't look awful. Had it came out with a really good start, kind of slowed down as the fight goes on, which is not, kind of like Max Holloway. We usually see him get better as the fight goes on. So I'm going to take Max Holloway to win here by decision. It's hard to see Calvin Kattar outlanding Max Holloway for 25 minutes. It really is. I think if Kattar wins, it's going to have to be a knockout, and Max Holloway hasn't been knocked out in 27 fights. Max Holloway has not been knocked down in 27 fights. Neither has been knocked down. So this probably goes to decision. I'm gonna say Max Holloway edges it out just by throwing a lot more volume than Kattar. Sure, Kattar's going to throw the heavier, harder shots, but Max Holloway definitely has a chin on him, and I'm gonna say Holloway wins by decision there. So just to recap the picks: Max Holloway, Tom Breese, Santiago Ponzinibio, Buckley, Condit, Filipe, Mello, Lingo, Dusko, Emeev, and Nasruddin Imavov, and Jocelyn Edwards. So a couple dogs in there. Really looking forward to this card. Really happy to be back. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for all the support. I do have 4 bets posted already. Of course, I'm going to be posting them for free on Saturday, but if you do want early access, click the link below, click the Patreon, and as I said, I'm adding some new things to the Patreon just to add more value on it for 2021, doing the Patreon-only live stream on Sunday or on Saturday on fight day and stuff like that. So follow me on Twitter, DFS_numbers, Instagram, DFS by the numbers. All my plays will be posted there. I think I'm going to start posting my predictions on Instagram as well, something like that. And make sure you give this video a like, subscribe if you have not yet. Trying to reach that 10,000 subscriber milestone, which would be a huge milestone. Could not get there without you guys. Look out for my other content throughout the week. The live stream on Friday, my betting breakdown on Saturday. If you guys play DraftKings, my DraftKings video is out. And that's about it. And good luck. And let's win some money. Let's have a good 2021, guys. See you soon.